Hi, I'm Steve Dockery, and welcome back to the Moot Workshop. Last video, we diagnosed this Macintosh 512KE as having a fault somewhere on the analog board. So we have two options. We can repair the board we've got, or we can replace it. Now, of course, if we replace it, we can't get a new one. They don't make new ones. So we'll get a used one, which may be advertised as working, but we don't know if it's got any hidden flaws that are about to show up. Or we can just repair the one we've got. So let's try and diagnose the existing board and fix it. That's what we're doing today on the Moot Workshop. The first thing I'm going to do, since we've decided to fix this board, is I'm going to clean the contacts on that battery. What I'm going to use is white vinegar, which is a great thing for getting rid of corrosion on things. So I'm going to get a little bit of, vinegar on that thing and just wipe away some of the corrosion. I don't want to leave vinegar on there, so the next thing we're going to do is dry it off a little bit and put a little bit of window cleaner on it. The nice thing about this stuff is it evaporates so completely. So now I've cleaned those battery contacts, and now it'll have that sweet smell of vinegar that we all love so much. And then I'm going to put a replacement battery in there. The batteries that these things used to be these 4.5 volt Energizer alkaline batteries, but these aren't made anymore. They don't make those. So the only thing you can do is get a substitute. This is the substitute I got. And it's actually slightly different size, but it still fits in the space. And this battery, in case you didn't know, this keeps the settings on the computer when it's off. Positive is toward the bottom. So there we go. Now we have our parameter RAM battery back in place. Okay, so now let's look at the analog board and see if we can see any problems. One thing that could be wrong is something could have overheated, in which case we'd be looking for scorch marks. Like one thing that could go bad is the flyback transformer, in which case you'd expect to see like marks on here. Another place that you could see things like that would be on the inside of the cover. The cover is pretty much clean, so it doesn't look like anything caught fire or overheated or anything. The flyback transformer looks fine. But another reason why there might not be any video is it could just be like a broken solder joint someplace. And one possible culprit is the jack that has the cable that runs to the logic board. One of those pins is where the video comes from. So we want to look at this little row of solder joints right here, because that's where the jack is. I'm going to put on my magnifiers and have a look. And what we want to see is big, round, shiny solder joints. And for the most part, these look pretty good. But the one on the end has what looks to me like an obvious crack in it. So I think the thing to do here is to resolder that pin and see if that fixes it. We're not going to simply heat up, remelt that solder joint. We're going to replace it. So we need to get the old solder off. I'm going to use this unsoldering tool. It has a nylon tip that the solder won't stick to. And you push this plunger down. And once we've heated up the solder, we put this over the joint, hit the button, and that sucks the solder out of the joint. So we have a clean place to resolder. Okay, let's turn this around and hook up some power to it. Let's see what happens. Okay, we still got a beep. Oh, and we have a picture. So it was as simple as that. It was just a broken solder joint. Okay, we're going to check some voltages here. I've got the negative side of the meter connected to the case with a clip lead, and the machine is turned on. So we're going to check some of the voltages on some of these pins. The green is the same as this battery back here. So if we touch that, it should be 4.5, and that's pretty close. The yellow is 12 volts, and that's close to that. But the one we're really worried about is the blue one. And that's supposed to be 5 volts. It's a little low. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this tool and put it in the hole over here marked voltage. And we're going to adjust this until we get 5 volts. There we go, 5 volts even. And that's what we want to see there. Still got 12 there. And we should have negative 12 on the red one. And all that's close enough. So our voltages are good. Well, we're ready to test it. I've hooked up the mouse and the keyboard, and we'll turn it on. We'll stick a disc in the drive and see what happens. Well, it didn't grab like it's supposed to. Okay. Well, it looks like we've got a problem with the floppy drive. It looks like it's booting though. Let's see. Yeah, that's not right. It should be done by now. Yeah, it's having problems. So I guess we got a bad floppy drive. Now, repairing a floppy drive is a little outside my area of expertise right now. Fortunately, I have a couple of extra 800K floppies that I can replace this with. So I'm going to do that for now. But maybe we'll make a future video if I decide to give it a go of actually fixing this drive. But for now, I'm going to shut it down, and we're going to swap out drives. I've already taken the screws out of this. So there's our drive. I'm going to save the cable from that. All right, so that's the floppy to possibly be repaired later. I'm going to have to get that disc out of there. There we go. And now I could have just transplanted this whole drive, which I got out of a Mac Plus. I could have transplanted the whole thing straight in, but I want to keep as much of this original as possible. I'm already swapping the drive. I'm going to also take the drive out of this sled and put it in the original sled. Plus, this is kind of ugly. All right, there's our replacement drive. And it looks pretty clean. And this has been recently tested. It does work. So let's just go ahead and put that in there. Put the cable in. Back in here. logic board back in. All right, we're ready to try it again. All right, we're ready for one more try. I've plugged the power in, I've got a keyboard and a mouse hooked up, and I've put a System Tools 3.2 disc in there. We're ready to try it. Should boot up from the disc if the drive is working. And there we go. Oh, wow, and it is booting. Excellent. Wow. I wish computers today would boot that quickly. Anyway, we are back in business. System Tools 3.2. That's Finder version 5.3. Let me see something really quick. Let's eject the disk. It worked. So, we're all done. Except for a few cosmetic things. You know, those holes that are cut in the back of the cabinet. I'd like to try to fill those in rather than leave the thing in that kind of a state. So the next video will be really about trying to fix some cosmetic issues on the machine now that it works properly. Next time on the Moot Workshop.